Welcome to another VBA tutorial. Today we're going to talk about option explicit, why you should use that at all times, the range object and how to use that, a little bit about the debugger and how that's a useful tool. I'll tell you about more what an object really is to get you thinking about future tutorials and future ways to use objects. And then I'll introduce the integer variable. Let's get started and make this video nice and short. We're going to create a sub called myRange, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and the end sub is automatically input. Okay, so we're going to type in the word range, and I'm going to hit the parenthesis, the open parenthesis. If you can see it on your screen, it should highlight a bold cell 1 and then a comma, and then you'll notice a not bold cell 2 that's kind of in these brackets. Those brackets means it's an optional parameter. Now the bold part is a necessity. You must put a value in there. And then on the right hand side it says as range. So what type of object is this? They're telling us that this is a range object. So there's nothing better than a good example, so let's just go ahead and do that. Range A4, close parentheses. What I created here, or what I'm referring to here, is an object called range. There's no name to it, but I'm referring to the A4 cell on my Excel. Now, I can't just refer to it because it's not doing anything. There's no point to that. If I hit F5 now, which is going to run the program, you get a compile time error, which means the code never ran. None of the code ran. This error is such a big error that it knows don't even try to run. Invalid use of property. Okay, so I didn't use any properties, and that's why it's invalid. So we're in debug mode. It automatically brings you to debug mode. If you see here, it's yellow highlighted, and this is blue highlighted. I did not do that. It automatically did that. It's trying to pinpoint you to the error. Now, what if you forgot what the error was? If you click on F8 on a PC, or if you go to debug and you go to step into, click on that, you'll get the same error. It's going to repeat that. So it allows you to fix it as you're going. So you can hit F8 and it comes back. Well, you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to use one of the properties or methods of range. After that parenthesis, hit the period and you'll see a pop-up menu here. All kinds of different things in there. We're not going to get into nearly any of them except for one or two today. But we're going to type in the word select, S-E-L, and as you see, it does populate select. You can hit tab or enter to select it. I'm going to hit tab. Range A4.select. That is a property. Now we're going to do something with A4. We're going to select it with the actual mouse. So hit enter, and we're going to hit F8 now. And it didn't do anything. Okay, here we go. F8 will step down. So hit F8. It's now on to the part where it says range A4 select. Watch on the left-hand side of my screen where it's A4. I'm going to hit F8 again, and it's going to run it. Now it's just, all it did was select A4, exactly what we wanted to do with it. You can hit F8 again, it'll end the debugger, or you can actually hit the stop button here. So if you run into some weird things where you're confused, why isn't my program working, you probably have debugger on and it's trying to debug still. Just hit that stop button and you're back to normal mode. Okay, let's not just do range select, let's put something in there and let's do a couple more ranges. Range A5 dot value equals 10. Let's do range A6 dot value equals hello world. And let's go ahead and delete range A4 select, because you know what? Why would you select that and then immediately go to range A5 and put a value in there? Or maybe you want to default after you run your code, which could be tons of things you're putting into these cells, and then you want the user that's going to open this up to start off with it on A1. So that might make sense. Range A1 dot select, so that every time you run the code, it always goes back to A1. What if you're on cell 240,000, if it even goes that high? At the end of your code, it would stay there is what would happen. But I'm doing range A1 select, so it'll go right back up to A1. Save your work, close it, open it back up, and the first customer or user of this, it'll start off on the very top left. Let's run this by hitting F5 and see if it works. There we go. We've got 10 and hello world in 5 and 6, A5 and A6. Okay, now let's jump right into integers here. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's talk about what an object is now. An object is like anything, like a television or a cell phone or a radio. They do things. They have properties. They have attributes. So think of a television set. if television set is an object, what does the object have? Well, it has a screen. It has the ability to change channels. It has the ability to turn on and turn off. All of those abilities are going to be the methods of that object. I can turn on, I can turn off. And so that's kind of what we're doing here with this dot notation. You see how the periods are there? If you have an object, you can hit period, and it like I showed you, range A1 dot, it gives you a list. These are all the methods and properties of that object. So what you can do is you can do things with them, or you can ask them about themselves. Hey, television set, what color are you? And it'll return that color to you. Range, what's inside of you? Because we already did, let's do that as an example actually. We did hello world as an A6. Let's do range A6 dot value, only we're going to put it in a message box. So we can spit that out on the screen. MSG box, and we're going to close the parenthesis here. Okay, so we're going to ask it, what is your value? So let's hit F5 again, and we say, oh, there it is. It's hello world. It's a dialog box. That worked very good. Okay, now finally, let's get into integers now. To declare an integer, you would say dim, which stands for dimension, dim, and then your integer name, my cool int, as, just like the range object had an as range, we're going to do as integer, hit tab, there we go. We've declared the my cool int as an integer. Now it doesn't mean it doesn't have any values, not yet, but we can assign it values. So let's go ahead and assign it a value, my cool int equals 7. Okay, let's do that message box again here. Message box, my cool int, and run that code, and there's the 7. See, that's how integers work, right? But that's probably not that useful yet, but we can make it useful and set it equal to what's in our A5 cell. So let's do that. Range A5 dot value. Don't forget the dot value part. A5 is a complex object. We want to bring out the attribute value and bring it back into, store it into my cool int. Then we want to put that value in, let's say, D10. So now let's do range D10 dot value and set it equal to my cool int, which in turn is actually the same thing as range A5. Again, let's try this out. Let's hit F5 and look at, lo and behold, D10 has the same value as A5. Let's change A5 to the number 158, and let's run the code again by hitting, we got to click over here and hit F5. Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. Inside the code, we're changing it to 10, so that really doesn't make any difference. So we can change this to 158 up here. You kind of get the point, though, what I was doing. So D, 10, and A5 will be the same. Okay, now one more quick thing before I get into the option explicit is let's do a range of, say, A1 through A4. That's what the colon does. A1 through A4 dot value equals 0. We want to default them to 0. Let's run that. There you go. All 4 of them became zeros. And this will work if you do any type of range like this. So A1 will be the top left and D4 will be the bottom right. Hit F5 and there it goes. It works. Okay? Easy enough with that. Finally, let's talk about option explicit. This option explicit here, it's commented out. These are comments, don't forget. What that does is, if you have this turned on, I'm going to take the comment out. What that does is, this code's going to run. Hit F5. If I clear all this, and I hit F5 over here again, it's all back because I ran the code again. Now what you notice is I declared this myCoolInt as an integer. What if I didn't? What if it was commented out? And I'm trying to assign this myCoolInt to something. Well, without option explicit, let's see what happens. And you may think this is a good thing, but it's not. Hit F5. Well, I'm sorry, let's clear the screen. Come over here, hit F5, and it works just as expected. You would normally think that's a good thing, but it's not. Here's the reason. You never declared myCoolInt. This could cause so many errors down the road. You want to make sure that you declare all of your integers. If I put on option explicit and I take that comment off and I hit F5 again, it will automatically tell me I am not going to compile. There's a variable that's not defined. In later episodes, you're going to find out why this is very important, and especially when you're going to be debugging your own code, you're going to find out why this is important. Option explicit is extremely useful for troubleshooting. So let's try to fix that by doing that. And then you can hit F8 and step through it and see how it's working. So there we go. You can hit F8 all you want. It's going to rerun this code. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial and come back for more.